guest from his own auspices. We've got Denzel Rodriguez. He has been great to have over the course of this last month. So happy to have him back just this one final time in what we've called our Cash Cultures Collide. What we're talking about is the minority money mindset over the course of this summer, and how some of those mindsets have really hurt us when it comes to who we are, not just what we have, not just what we can accumulate, but who we are and whose we are, because this man is a man of great kingdom and faith. So we've got Denzel in the building one more time. Welcome to everybody on our YouTube channel. So shout out to the Cash Compound and our YouTube experience. If you're out there, give us a shout. If you're live, throw it in the chat where you are living in from on YouTube. And a special, special welcome to our friends and family here on the Zoom. We've got two experiences running simultaneously. We're going to be talking and walking to everybody. So if you've got stuff you'd like to shout out and say and be a part of, throw it in the chat. Our Zoom audience, please and thank you. Throw in the chat where you are coming in from. I'm in Greenville, South Carolina at the headquarters, and somewhere down in Florida, we have got Denzel. Denzel, welcome. Glad you are back. Tell us what's up.
What's up? What's up is I'm in Tampa right now, so I'm not in my YouTube studio at the moment. So I'm with my fiance, supporting her. She's doing a training right now at her law firm. So I am the supportive fiance and the one that did the driving to help her, right? Get there, back and forth. So I'm excited to be here, man. I would not miss this session for anything. This is probably one of my most favorite conversations to have regarding jurisdiction, kingdom, understanding how the kingdom works here on earth, not just spiritually in heaven, but how do we actually bring that here on this planet and experience the abundance that our Creator has to offer us, has wants and desires to give to us. And so super excited. We've made a ton of progress this whole entire month. And although this is the last session of this Cash Cultures Collide, this will not be the last time Jeremiah and I get together. We plan on having more collaborations and more conversations and more counseling, education, and teaching around what we're providing you here today to get you to the next level in your personal finances and your business finances, and overall helping you build the kingdom life, being able to live a rich, intentional life here on earth with the time that we've been given. So thank you.
Thank you, man. I love it. The stuff that you've brought has been very encouraging to me and several of our team members who joined. What's up, Liz, out there on the West Coast? We got Leslie as well, a guest from Columbus, Ohio. We got Indiana in the building today. Charlotte, California. Where in California are you? Oh, is that me? That is me. Oh, no. All right. The family was calling. The family was calling. I don't know if that disturbed you guys, but I heard it in my ears here. So thank you so much. Life goes on, you know, and building that kingdom and building with your family, the people you love, is a blessing. So Vancouver, Washington, yes, Liz is everywhere. Oh, no. Liz is, I thought she was potentially on. Liz is on the Zoom. I love it. I got multiple screens going on here. YouTube, where are you out there in YouTube? There's an echo on our. I think we probably got our production team seeing that. Sorry about that. Echo out there. We're going to fix that on YouTube just as quickly as we can. Thank you for telling us. Let us know where you are YouTubing in from. Okay, YouTube. Let us know where you are. Love to chat with you. Let me give a little bit of review of where we've been for the last 3 weeks. And remember, you can go back and watch these sessions that we've had, these hour-plus long sessions on our YouTube channel. That's the Cash Compound. Let me tell you where we've been in the last couple of weeks. Number one was rebuilding reputation. We did this on the 4th of July. And when we started, we wanted to make sure that you knew that money making was in the mind. It starts on the inside. And Denzel has brought to us some preaching. I'm telling you, he's brought to us some preaching about what's going on the inside, who you are and who you are, as I mentioned before. And that was a lot of where we started from. How did we get here? Where are we supposed to go? Why, if we're in the wrong place, why is that? Rebuilding the reputation. It starts on the inside from the founder. So he talks a lot about God in that experience, and we brought that up week after week. I love that
In week 2, the next week, this was July the 11th, we were teaching minority money mindset. And what I got into was the nuts and bolts around a fundamental product that's going to be able to be the bedrock and foundation for your finances as you build. And that, for many of you, if you've been watching us for any amount of time here at the Cash Compound, or you know what Denzel teaches, we utilize an off-market strategy outside of Wall Street, outside of government control. We talked about infinite banking and utilizing the infinite banking process daily in your life to take back the control of the banking function that most of us have abdicated to Wells Fargo, Bank of America, TD, and all that. We talked about life insurance and how that's a bedrock product and how it can be used specifically to change the trajectory of where your money is and where it goes. So that was week number 2. Hope you guys like that. You remember, you can go back and watch any of these. Last week, it was rediscovering purpose. Now that we had the foundation built, and assumedly you're thinking about or considering doing the right things with your money first. Just one thing, pay yourself first. Now we're rediscovering our purpose. Where do we go from here? Are we really in the right mindset to move forward in the way we should because we've got our money set up right? We can still crack a big, thick foundation if we are not thinking the right thoughts. We're not putting into action the right things. So that was rediscovering purpose. And today, to close it out, everybody, understanding jurisdictional finance. Those are some big words. Understanding is a big word, but I know what that means. Jurisdictional finance. We're going to go to Denzel for this one to lead it off and to help us understand what that means and how some of the cultures out there, minority cultures, what they've done and been doing for hundreds of years, thousands of years to set the path straight for their community. When we talk about minorities, we talk about sects of people, getting people divided, segregating things off. And we decided a long time ago in our hours of conversation together that we were going to divide by the way we thought, not just by the color of our skin. So if you thought this was going to be rage against the man, you're going to have to go to another live for that one. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we believe you've got the freedom to think and choose. So what we're going to do now is talk about some of these cultures and these communities, especially communities of faith over the years. I think Denzel's going to bring that up. That what have they done? Why have they done it? How have they done it to help their communities? Because that's what we're here to do. So we hope you guys join the conversation with us. Throw it in the chat, questions, comments, and concerns. Substitutions, exchanges, refunds, all welcome here. This is a collaborative experience. And for those of you who are watching us live, please participate. Denzel, I'm going to turn things over to you, man. I know you got a laundry list of things to say. I've only read one book on this type of topic, and I'll get to it when you let me jump in. I told you this kind of early in our collaboration. One people group, but that's all I know. You've got a lot of things on your mind. And when we were doing our kind of a prep work for this experience, this was one of the big topics you wanted to get into. So I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'm just going to go right into the thick of it. And for those of you that are watching with me live, if you have questions and they pop up, either write them down or type them in the chat immediately, because as soon as that question leaves your mind, another question is going to pop up, and then another question, because this is a area in the minority culture, right? Whether you're Black, Hispanic, any minority group, predominantly in the U.S., probably most likely has never heard of this before. And I would say predominantly Blacks and Hispanics. And I know on my YouTube channel, I have a majority of Blacks and Hispanics that I serve. A majority of my clients are Black and Hispanic. And so there's a passion there, a personal passion, a personal preference to target those folks. So by no means am I alienating anyone. This is a topic that's welcome to everyone, for everyone. And the way the kingdom works, way my Father works in heaven, is he's out to save. He's out to conquer. He's out to glorify himself as much as he possibly can. He is trying to expand his kingdom as much as humanly possible on this planet, right? And I get to play a very, 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 very small part in that. So the way I'm going to frame this is I'm going to give you certain words. I'm going to share some slides with you. I encourage you to take notes. This will be recorded so you can watch this over and over again. So where we're going to begin is literally understanding jurisdiction, those two words. It blew my mind. I didn't realize the word understand. It actually has a deeper meaning to it, right? So to understand something or to understand someone or something, that means you are standing under, you understand, you stand under, switch the word, you're standing under, and then the next part, jurisdiction. Jurisdiction literally means a territory over which a government has rulership, authority over, period, done, simple. So, Jeremiah, myself, mostly everyone in here in the chat and listening on YouTube Live, most of us, if not all of us here, are United States citizens. We are a citizen of the United States. And by having this title, by having this citizenship, you understand, you stand under the jurisdiction, the governmental authority of the United States of America, which means that you adhere, you acquiesce, you submit, you yield to the rules, regulations, protocols, mandates of this country, whether you like it or not, right? That's what it is. So that right there, understanding jurisdiction, is a critical, foundational component as you build wealth in the United States or in any country for that matter. There are rules, regulations, mandates, protocols that we as human beings must abide by, must abide in order to receive the incentives, the benefits that come with living in that particular land, under that particular jurisdiction, okay? So where we have a unique advantage as United States citizens and kingdom citizens, meaning kingdom citizen is someone that yields to Jesus Christ, Holy Spirit, God the Father, 3 in 1, yielding to that authority, his word, his mandate, his kingdom, his rules and regulations. Spiritually, we're yielding to that. Simultaneously, our body, our flesh, is yielding to United States tax code, rules and regulations and mandates over which we live our lives. And to be a good citizen simply means you follow the rules. Now, where it can get a little gray, a little interesting, is when we start to discover, especially in the area of finance, so understanding jurisdictional finance, that third word, finance, where it gets a little gray is, okay, wait a minute, Denzel, it would seem like there are different rules being played simultaneously on the same land that you and I drive on, live on, eat on, operate on, fly over, swim, or cruise over a boat, right? This United States. It would seem like there are different rules to be played. There's the rules of the poor and the broke. There comes with certain set of philosophies with that, certain sets of circumstances and situations and the types of people that live in this particular class. Then you've got the middle class that operates a certain way, thinks a certain way, according to the same rules and regulations of the same tax code that the poor people operate in. And then you have the wealthy and ultra wealthy folks. that operate in the same land, follow the same rules, yield different results. So interesting. We see this happen in the church as well. There's certain people that read the same Bible. You get a different interpretation of Genesis. I get a different interpretation of Genesis. That one gets a different interpretation. And therefore, different results are being yielded. Yet, the same laws are still being applied. So what I love, what I enjoy about understanding jurisdictional finance is that it is unchanging. It is, once it is set, it is set. It is a principle. It cannot be violated. The user of the law gets violated when they try to violate the law. When it comes to money, when it comes to wealth, when it comes to building. Okay? So, what I'm going to share, I have a couple of slides, about 15 or 16 slides that we're going to go through. I'm going to take you to the tax code, the United States tax code. I'm going to take you right to it. I'm going to show you how you can do your own research on this, and you can discover another jurisdiction that exists for, specifically, for faith-based people. Notice how I said faith-based people, not Catholics, not Christians, not, who's the other big group? Mormons, not Amish, not Hindus, not Muslims, faith-based people. Very interesting, okay? And once I get into these slides, again, questions are going to come up. You probably have questions already. Throw them in the chat. I'm going to try and go slow with this, but I know my time is short. And I'm going to give you action steps as to where you can find this information, where you can seek out this wisdom that is available to us, especially in one of the greatest, I would arguably the greatest country in the world. For me personally, this is the greatest country in the world, the United States. So we're in a very unique position and time as a people of faith, and the type of land that we're in and the type of opportunities that we have right now. And what I will share with you may or may not manifest itself in your life. It's totally up to you. I know for me, I'm personally making this a lifestyle, an obsession, to obsess over the kingdom, how it operates, how it works, how can I experience it here on earth? How can I, as a Christian, as a born-again believer, how can I live and win now, not after I'm dead? Because as far as I'm concerned, and the type of the Bible I read, and all the promises and all the prophecies state that I should be in a perpetual state of winning, while maybe simultaneously going through chaos and crisis. It is possible to be going through a crisis, to be in chaos in your life, yet still win. And I know that it's possible because I've done it, me personally. Someone that's a Puerto Rican Colombian kid, born out of Queens, New York, born out of wedlock. A father went to prison. A justice system betrayed the citizen, caused that man to go to prison for a crime he didn't commit, only to be released over a decade later, to now have a young boy with no father. So I grew up without my biological father. I didn't know my spiritual father in heaven. I didn't know my creator. I didn't know Jesus like that. So going through these different crises, growing up in a single mom household, growing up in another household where my mom found me another dad, a stepdad, what we call stepfathers. Shout out to all stepfathers out there, right? Doing the best that he could, right? Growing up in a life of abuse, right? Whether it was physical or verbal, either or, it happens, right? And being able to survive those things. Growing up in an environment where you're connected to gangs, mafia, where it got so bad to the point where my family was a hit, is what they call it. A hit was put on my family, right? In the middle of the night, Everyone familiar with GTA? Anyone played games when they throw the Molotov, they take the little towel in the bottle and they throw it and they light it on fire, boom. I experienced that in real life. My family sleeping in the middle of the night, and the Molotov goes right on the car, right in front of our driveway, lights the whole vehicle on fire, lights pretty much the whole front of the house on fire. I wake up in this red darkness, probably not even 11 years old yet. Mom's crying, stepfather's yelling, and in an instant, we could have lost our lives. Thankfully, we got out, and thankfully, we had the courage to get out of that situation. But it would be multiple more years of chaos and crises, financial crisis, you name it, over and over and over again. All leading up to getting into a place where we can now look back. I can look back in hindsight, and hopefully I'm giving you this, that maybe you might be in a crisis right now. You might be dealing with something and you feel like you're losing. I want to remind you that just being here breathing is a win. And it's impactful when you have that kind of perspective, that when you see the war, when you see the battle approaching you, that you can have this sense of peace, this sense of knowing that everything is going to be all right. Even if I fail, I still win. Even if I lose that battle, I still win the war, right? I still win in life overall. So this perspective, hopefully, when I give you this logical foundation of understanding jurisdictional finance, will not only help you be more productive as a United States citizen, but also help you develop that mindset that, hey man, the world could be falling apart. The United States could be falling away from Judeo-Christian values and supporting all these different things and supporting different countries instead of their own people, and back and forth and bickering and assassination attempts and you name it, right? Yet, you can still be in this perpetual place of joy, peace, happiness, even though there's a fight that needs to be, right? That needs to happen. There has to have this war, this battle, the battle of our minds. Okay, so I'm gonna dive into it now. Hopefully, I don't.
All right, that was a lot. I'm ready.
It was a lot.
You got the pump primed on that. Throw in the chat, anybody, if you have seen providential, you've seen providential experiences in your financial life, in your mental life. He talked about that a lot. You know, have you done it all yourself, or have you seen a divine intervention in your journey, in your financial journey, in your mental, spiritual journey? A divine intervention, a sovereign help, anything like that? I'd love to know. We've got a direct question. I want to comment on it. A direct question in the chat that I got to me. And I'll just say to that person who asked a political style financial question real quick as we transition over to Denzel again for some slides. I don't know a lot about that. I don't know very much about that political movement. I've seen it pop up obviously in the last week or two. So I'm going to have to do some homework on that one. So sorry I didn't answer. I just realized I'd throw that one out there. So, okay. Denzel, back to you, man. Let's see jurisdictional finance. Let's see what how the kingdom has come, or how it can come.
Absolutely. And let me preface what I'm not doing, because you brought that up and I was like, yep, let me address it now. So what I am not encouraging anyone in this message that I give is that you, as a United States citizen, can join this movement called the sovereign movement and sort of operate in the United States but not be subject to its laws, rules, and mandates. That is a recipe for jail. That's a recipe for prison, right? And I won't get into the nitty-gritty of that. So that's what I'm not teaching. I'm not teaching individual kingdom building. That's what I'm not teaching, although I'm going to show you how it does get built. Essentially, people are out here building empires. You've got the Rockefellers, you've got the Rothschilds, right? You've got empires, the Waltons, right, that do exist, the Gates, right? The Bezos, the Musk. There are individual empires out there that do exist, right? So I'm not going to be teaching about that, and I'm not going to be teaching about how you can unsign, get out of United States and relinquish all your adhesion contracts. And I can tell you the best of the best out there on YouTube, the ones that promoted this, the best of the best, the smartest and brightest people, they ended up right in jail, right in prison, because they stepped on a landmine. And what I mean by a landmine is they triggered a jurisdiction that gave United States the authority to penetrate, to pierce whatever veil, whatever corporate structure these people out there may be promoting. So I'm not going to be doing any of that. I'm strictly going to be talking about what the tax code says and how the kingdom of God can operate here on this earth in any jurisdiction while simultaneously being an upright, good citizen of whatever nation we are under. So therefore, we remain in as an ally, right? We remain in good standing, in good standing with any jurisdiction that we interact with. So let's begin. This is going to be fun. Let me know if my screen is being shared and this is clear. Everyone can see it. All right, I see the thumbs up. Thank you so much, Jalissa. Appreciate that. So here we go. Let me share with you an example. This is a real example of what I myself and a community of kingdom faith-based people are doing together all over the world. There are multiple examples of this that exist. So this is not the only one that exists. This is just one that I'm personally a part of. So this organization, this kingdom structure is called ICOVEST. And what we're doing is we're building a faith-based, organized community and distributed wealth ledger. One of the components of this wealth ledger is, in fact, building privatized banking systems using properly structured whole life insurance. So one of the super cool things in the infinite banking world and using whole life insurance is we're predominantly being taught how we can individually build our own privatized banking systems, leverage our own cash flows to finance purchases, finance investments, recapture interest, recapture cash flow, and build long-term wealth that our kids, our children's children would inherit. And what a way to fulfill a scripture that talks about leaving an inheritance for your children's children. For those who don't, it says you're worse than an infidel, which is a powerful statement to be made. So I'm someone that when I read certain things, there's certain scriptures that hit all of us in a different timing. For me, it was that, the whole part about not leaving an inheritance for my children's children, being called an infidel or non-believer, right? So teaching jurisdictional finance to the church is what ICOVEST does. And we do that via Title 26, 508, C1A, and something called ecclesiastical law. Ecclesiastical law is the law of laws. It is where all law derives from. Ecclesiastical law is spiritual law. It's where all law derives from. You can trace this all the way back to the first civilizations that have ever existed. Pretty impactful. So, next slide here. Let me, like this. So who are we? ICOVEST is a ministry of finance. So ICOVEST is a ministry, it's a church that is essentially raising disciples, putting together a discipleship for kingdom believers to understand jurisdiction and jurisdictional finance so that they may build wealth within the body of Christ that we may steward, that we may inherit, that we may manage, and do the Father's will more efficiently, more productively, more impactfully. Right? So that's our mission, create more financially independent families and churches than any other structure in history. We accomplish this by generating cash flow in what's called a tax-accepted jurisdiction. We are using our combined knowledge to help the church and its members the best way we can win. Here's our principles, our tenets of faith. Got to have these. You got to have non-negotiables when it comes to whether it's paying off debt, funding your life insurance policy, right? You got to have a non-negotiable that no matter what, I'm going to pay my premium. How do I do that? How do I set a standard in my personal finances to make sure that these premiums, my banking policies, are funded every single year, year after year after year? Got to have these tenets of faith. So love the Lord your God, love your neighbor, scripture alone, one Lord, one faith, one body of Christ, and organic community growth and empowerment. Very powerful, very important. This right here, I encourage you to take a screenshot. This is the hierarchy of law. Understanding where you stand right now as a United States citizen will determine the amount of wealth, of money, of resources, of capital that you will be granted to steward and manage. It is simply based on jurisdiction. The more you understand law, the more you comprehend the law and are able to then put into work, into action the law, the more productive a person, organization, structure can be. So at the very, very bottom of law, you've got corporations, statutory, uniform commercial code. The root word of corporation is corp. What is a corp? Corpse. Corpse means dead, okay? Right? When you refer to, oh, look at that corpse, that animal on the ground, that dead corpse, or a body is a corpse. That means that that person or that animal is dead, okay? And then you break the rest of the word down, corp, and then oration, oral. Oration, oral means to speak. So what's happening is you and I establish LLCs, S Corps, C Corps. These are dead speak. The dead speaking is a dead organization. It is a dead structure that is speaking behalf on your spiritual body. Denzel Rodriguez. My company, Builder to Contributor LLC, is a dead company. It's dead. It's not living. I'm the living being. My corporation is paper, right? But what happens is under this jurisdiction of this United States, in order for me to be represented in this country, I must have that type of structure in order to do the business, in order to reduce the tax liability that I seek. If I, Denzel Napoleon Rodriguez, as a United States citizen with my passport, my driver's license, my birth certificate, and social security number, these are all adhesion contracts that put me under a certain class, under a certain rule of law that would subject me to high taxation, essentially slavery, right? I know these are strong words, but that is essentially what is going on. If I remain operating in the United States as Denzel Napoleon Rodriguez with my social security, driver's license, passport, tax identification number, and all these different things, then I will remain a working, productive slave of my nation, period. I will remain in the highest taxation that there will ever be, unless I start at the first level of corporation. I urge and really hope you consider any employee watching and you do not yet have a business, that you would seek that out. You would leverage your skills, gifts, and talents to start or operate inside of a business that you can produce more wealth. And that immediately puts you in a different ruling, a different jurisdiction, a different class. So each column here that builds the pyramid are different classes, are different jurisdictions. So again, LLCs, S Corps, C Corps, that's at the bottom, right? What rules over that is the public courthouses, the judges, the police, persons, admiralty law, maritime law, the law of the sea. Okay, that's where you get the word banking, right? When the judge says approach the bench, right? Like there's root words that are the same words that get used when on a ship, when on a boat, when out at sea. And what rules over that is government, international law, created by natural man to protect the property of natural men, right? Now, this is the next column above government. This is where the ultra wealthy live. The ultra wealthy operate under common law, the law of the land. Now, to an extent, we do experience common law as citizens when it comes to certain things like elections and voting and things like that. But as it relates to your money that you steward here on this planet, you are not experiencing common law. The only way you will ever experience common law as an individual is if you have trust, if you have multiple layered trust and properly structured whole life insurance. That is, a whole life insurance policy operates outside of the tax code, not completely, because a whole life insurance policy predates the IRS. So there are laws that have stayed in place almost as long as 2-3 generations and has not changed. And these laws protect the policy owner, the policy holder of their cash value. It is not subject to bankruptcy. It is not subject to taxes when used properly, right? It's not subject into collections. You know, if you go through a divorce, right? That they can't touch that cash value, right? You get sued. Let's say you get sued in your business, they cannot come after your cash value. So the ultra wealthy have high cash value structured policies, whole life, and they have multi-layered trust, right? And that essentially creates a separate jurisdiction just for them. Now, here's where it gets even more fun. Right above man, female, common law, law of the land, is where we have ecclesiastical law. This is where you're dealing with the clergy, members, the ecclesia. The ecclesia is the church, is the body. If the Bible is true, the church is the bride to Christ, if the Bible is true. If what I just said is true, we would be able to find that in the law. So having the spiritual historical context of the Bible to back this up, and also man's law, looking at the United States of America, the most powerful country in the world, to back up God's structure. If you ever needed a sign, here's your sign. If you're a non-believer, if you're on the fence, if you're a somewhat so, I don't know, in-betweener, or maybe you've gone through some church hurt, here is your sign, my friend. And then at the top of the pyramid, you have God the Creator, the one who creates all things, okay? So if what I just said is all true, then we should be able to find that in the tax code as it relates to jurisdiction. So here it is. What is a 508c1a corporation sole? Title 26, right, U.S. Code. The 508c1a faith-based organization is a religious nonprofit tax exempt organization, right? The 501c1a FBO is separate and distinct from a 501c3 charity and unincorporated FBO. The 508c1a is applicable in all 50 states and recognized internationally under the Hague Convention of the United States Charter. And those of you who don't know what the Hague Convention is, the United States Charter, that is literally like the highest authority. That's world law. That's where big stuff happens. All right. Since its inception in 1954 with the Johnson Amendment, the 501c3 has been promoted and advertised by many as the only option to organizing an FBO. This is fatally incorrect. Simple. Federal law, IRS publication, court cases all confirm and establish the rights and protection of the 508c1a FBO. The 508c1a enjoys a mandatory exception, not just an exemption, an exception from all restrictions a 501c3 would have, including free speech restrictions, IRS reporting requirements, rules and regulations that the IRS may from time to time prescribe, and providing testimony under oath. This is deep stuff. Okay? So let's go look at the actual code. Where is it at? This is the publication. This is where it at. You can literally search this stuff up for yourself. Okay? Title 26, U.S. Code 508. New organization must notify secretary that they are applying for recognition of what? The 501c3. So this is looking at the 501c3 status, and then it says except as provided in subsection C. Well then, let's go to subsection C. What does subsection C says? Exemptions. Mandatory exemptions. These are subsections A and B shall not apply to churches. Stop right there. Churches. For those of you listening that have a church that you go to a home church, I want you to find out. Is your church a 501c3 nonprofit organization? If so, your church, your pastor, your organization receives permission to exist from the United States, not from God. Legally. Spiritually, yes. God allowed that church to exist, ordained it, consecrated it, great. Legally, the church, if your church is operating as a 501c3 nonprofit organization, that your church still has to answer to the IRS. If your church, if your pastor decides to promote Donald Trump in his church, or Joe Biden, or I think if I'm not mistaken, he backed out, if I'm not mistaken. So whoever's next, maybe Kamala, right? If your pastor decided to do that publicly, like this, church would be shut down. Which is why, when you go to church, politics does not enter the church. Because your church does not have jurisdiction to talk about politics. So therefore, you're being limited of your free speech. Little did you know. Oh, and by the way, money, wealth, tax code, yeah, those are gray areas. Not typically allowed to talk too much about that. You can talk about tithing all day you want. Yeah, talk about tithing, that's fun. But get into the nitty-gritty and see what types of spiritual and physical legal attacks your church may go under if you decide to do that operating as a 501c3. Now, if your church is operating as a 508, the IRS has no jurisdiction because they wrote the code. Whoever they is. We can read a book called The Creature from Jekyll Island, and you can find out who they is, right? The IRS is a private organization. The Federal Reserve is a private organization that is publicly enacting rules, regulations, and mandates over its citizens, right? Pretty powerful stuff. Powerful stuff, okay? So let me come back to my PowerPoint, because then I get all crazy. So subsection C, churches, they're integrated auxiliaries and conventions or associations of churches. What that simply means is, I'll give you an example of my church that I go to. It's called Calvary Chapel. Calvary Chapel has a main headquarters. The mother church is what we typically call it in the body. So that's the main church. The integrated auxiliaries of Calvary Chapel is their satellite churches, their conventions, their associations, their small groups, small group ministries, their mission trip groups, the extension of the church in other countries. That's how that looks like in the kingdom. They're integrated auxiliaries. Churches under churches under churches under churches, right? That's what that looks like. So, let's continue. 26 U.S. Code 6033. Here's something very interesting. It says, except as provided in paragraph 3 from before, every organization exempt from taxation under section 501A shall file an annual return. This is going back, right, to the 501, stating specifically the items of gross income, receipts, disbursements, and such other information for the purpose of carrying out the internal revenue laws of the Secretary may be forms or regulations prescribed, and shall keep such records, render under oath such statements, make such other returns, and comply with such rules and regulations as the Secretary may from time to time prescribe. In other words, the church is getting audited, right? That's kind of like what that looks like, right? Now, we come over to Title 26 U.S. Code 6033, except the part where it said except, and then section A, the mandatory exemptions again, right? This is a kind of showing you the full code here, right? Let me go back. Let me show you how it looked, right, from earlier. Okay, this is just, it's the same thing. And this is just, you know, breaking it down, showing one by one how each of these things work, right? So here we go. 26 U.S. Code 170, the general rule. There shall be allowed as a deduction any charitable contribution as defined in subsection C, payment of which is made within the taxable year. A charitable contribution, in other words, tithing, or other means, giving, shall be allowed as a deduction only if verified under regulations prescribed by the Secretary, right? We tend to be familiar with that stuff. All right, so charitable contribution, what is it defined as? Means a contribution or gift to or for the use of, right? A corporation, trust, or community trust fund or foundation, right? Organized and operated exclusively for religious, charitable, scientific, literary, educational purposes. These are a lot of different things that we could be doing in the body, right? And not have the pressure that the IRS would provide or invoke on any church in America. Yet, most pastors, most leaders, most bishops do not understand the legal law. They understand spiritual law. I'm not refuting any pastor or rebuking any pastor that doesn't understand this. That's okay. Right? This isn't public education, public knowledge. This has been hidden for so many years, right? So let me give you a visual of what this could look like in the body when churches operate sovereignly, but still abiding by all the rules and regulations of the same land, and yet not being subject to the taxation that comes with having organizations. And this would give churches the ability to establish cash flowing businesses, or in other words, multiple banking systems as well within business systems. So imagine you go to church and you get a sermon and you also receive opportunities to join a bank, become a member, ecclesiastical member of a bank in your church, and your bank in your church is backed up by a multitude of cash value life insurance policies that also operate outside of the tax code when used properly. And imagine if we as Christians, born again believers, following Christ, imagine if you could receive insurance from your church, life insurance, by the community tithing its tithes and offerings before the church spends its tithes and offerings, that it would go, right before I go into that whole illustration, I'll just come back to myself real quick. I get too excited about this and then I lose my train of thought. Imagine being able to arrive at your church. You can receive your sermons and your teaching and Wednesday night Bible study and prayer worship and prayer meetings, and also receive your own privatized banking system by people like Jeremiah and others that would help you design that. So it's your individual being impacted from it. And the tithes that you would tithe and offer to your church before your pastor, before your church group staff, before a dime gets spent, it would enter into what's called trust-owned life insurance, totally, right? Or we could say church-owned life insurance. And the dollars would get deposited into these high cash value life insurance policies with massive death benefits on the pastor, on the deacons, on the worship team, on the members of the church. All the tithes flowing into a tax-free, tax-accepted, totally outside of the IRS jurisdiction, of which then the body can then borrow funds to then fund the mission trip. Or now, because the church is operating outside of the 501c3, the church can have an actual service-based business, services that the church can provide to the world and to the body. And it would receive cash flows, which again, those cash flows, where are they going to flow? Into properly structured whole life policies that have been funded by the mass of the entire body. Oh my goodness. So the church would have its church, where we get our faith, where we get our word, where we get our wisdom, where we get our worship team, and we have a bank, and we have businesses that the church would fund based on the participating members of the ecclesia. That, say, a Denzel comes up and say, hey, I'm part of this ABC church and I want to start a financial coaching practice. Instead of me going to Wells Fargo, can I go to the bank of church ABC and receive a loan at a much lower interest rate, at a much lower cost than what Wells Fargo would charge me? And now I can take that capital, go out into the world, serve those, and also serve the body, receive cash flows. A percentage of the cash flow goes back into the body, keeps building up premium. And anytime someone passes in the church, massive tax-free death benefit paid out to the entire body, not just hierarchical. I'm here to tell you it does exist. It's out there. The Jewish people have figured it out. Certain Jewish sects have figured it out. Mormon groups. Who's the other big one? Amish. You've got, outside of Mormon, there's another one that do it very well. And certain Asian communities.
Mennonite? No, Mennonites don't do insurance. I'm sorry. I don't think it's them. I ruined your flow. I was
all good. No, there's another one that we all know. It's a type of Christian, not Jehovah's Witness, although they know a thing or two about this as well.
They do. Yep, a couple of them.
You got the Mormon. You got the Moors. Moors, I believe, was what they call themselves, the Moorish temple, or Moorish something, right?
Okay.
Very interesting. These are groups of Christians that broke off, right? And in those different groups like Jehovah's or Mormons, where your average Christian does not relate to a Jehovah's Witness or Mormons, is the validity of Christ. That's basically what it all boils down to. Spiritually speaking, the validity of Christ is Jesus God, right? Like that's where the whole you get the separation of so many different types of Christians. So you kind of have to be careful when someone says they're a Christian. You're like, right, like what kind, right? Because the 3-in-1 type of Christian, or are you Jesus is just a prophet, not Jesus is God, and totally taking scripture out of context when we can clearly see Jesus declaring himself as God and man and spirit all in one, operating. It's a conundrum. But that's where you get those separations. But what's fascinating is that when you hang out with those folks like Moors, Jehovah's Witness, why are they so darn wealthy? Yet they doctrinally get the validity of Christ incorrect. But the way they operate is kingdom. It's so weird, right? It's like the Roman Empire itself, the way it was structured was you could say was kingdom. It was a kingdom. And that's why Jesus arrived in that time anywhere, in the fullness of time, so that people would understand. When he started talking kingdom, people would comprehend it. If Jesus came today talking kingdom language, the kingdom of heaven has arrived. It's at hand. People would be like, what? This is democracy, bro. We don't want no rulers here, right? Like we would fail miserably as Christians if Jesus came back with the same message today talking about kingdom, one ruler, one power, one authority. We'd be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Sounds like a tyrant, buddy, right? I don't know about that. We vote over here for our presidents, for our rulers. We have discussions and debates. It's like, no, it's not how a kingdom works. The king rules his domain, right, and has authority over all its citizens, and you either say no or you get exiled. It's about as simple as that, right? And it sounds tough, but it's actually the most freeing position to be in, especially if it's the creator. If it's a man, yeah, we protest that, we rebuke that, right, in the name of Jesus. But now, let me come back, because I get too excited.
I know he's got so much for us today. You got so much for us today. I love it. I love it. Keep it going, man. Keep it going. I wish I could comment, but I can't do better than you. So keep it going.
So let me show you where my head's at. This is what this looks like. Donations, right? This is how it currently is. Right? You go to church, you give donations. Cool. If we were an organized church, this is one of the things Christians suffer the most. We are highly unorganized in the church. It looks terrible. You go to a Catholic church, one of the most structured structures that have existed and continue to exist is, you look at the Roman Catholic Church. It is one of the most properly clean, structured organizations. Now, are they right biblically in doctrine? No, they get that fatally incorrect and are leading millions astray. But again, their structure is impeccable. So impeccable, right? This might be getting a little political here. So impeccable that a crime could be committed in there and it would not get caught. Right? And I'll stop there because I'm not going to do that to my Catholics, because I used to be Catholic. So I'm not going to burn that bridge just yet. So you got donations going to an organized church, an ecclesia. There's a couple different words to say that. A couple different ways of saying that. Ecclesia, ecclesia, okay? I like to say ecclesia, sounds more Spanish, okay? So then the money flows to local communities, right? We've got a board of directors that operate, and those are essentially elders of the church that help steer the flock, steer the sheep in the right direction. Then from there, the elders are establishing business development opportunities, ministry development, business development, financial development. Imagine if your church had a department for life insurance agents to help every single citizen, every single member that becomes a member of that church, and they declare that their home church, that part of the process was that they would talk to a Jeremiah and they put a policy in place, and they can declare, hey, 10% of my death benefit, 20% of my death benefit goes back to the church. Can you imagine the type of wealth within one generation could be recaptured within 40 years or less, the amount of people that would pass within 40 years, the amount of death benefit, tax-free, back to your church would never lack resources. And there are churches out there that operate like this. They exist. It's worth taking the time to maybe go to a Roman Catholic church, like one of the real nice ones, and just see how they operate. Or go to a Jehovah's Witness church, or go to Shabbat with the Jews. Go to temple. Check them out. See how they operate, man. Boy, are they on time. They don't start late. They don't end late. They start early. They start on time. And they finish on time. It's incredible. And they get a lot done. Okay? So, real estate development, community development, manufacturing, agricultural resources, commodity export development. Can you imagine if the church had ports where, imagine we had our own cruises, imagine if we had our own oil shipping rigs? What? You know the amount of cash flow we produce, right? And we would have local community coordinators, right? And here's what it looks like. Establishing all these different types of centers. Imagine not having to rely on Medicare, Medicaid when you get into your late 60s, even though those are, say, opportunities. I'm not saying cancel your stuff and hope for the church to do it. I'm not saying that. But just imagine if there was a world where that could be. And I'm telling you that there are certain communities, like Asian communities, like Jewish communities, they go to their own people for their doctors. They have their own hospitals. They have their own banks. They have their own high cash value life insurance policy structured properly, paying premiums every year, saving money, tax-free, compounded, guaranteed liquidity. Produces a massive amount of cash flow, right? But where they get messed up is the doctrine, because then they make it all about money, and that's what we need to be careful of. This is all fine and dandy, but if we lose the original gospel, the original good news, that's where this thing crumbles and falls apart, and crimes get committed, and organizations get exposed, okay? So this is what my head looks like in my brain. It's a little crazy. But know that if we picked one thing that we're each really good at, and we came together in common unity, in community, common unity as one, and just said our prayer, our Our Father prayer. What a kingdom template right there is. That prayer right there is a kingdom template, how to operate. So we built a distributed wealth model. ICOVES operates. Here's how it is, right? ICOVES is a ministry of finance, is a church, right? It operates sovereignly and is qualified under Title 26 U.S. Code, Section 508C1A, bearing a mandatory tax-accepted status, apart from lawful subjugation to commercial jurisdiction. Our ministry focuses on teaching financial literacy and biblical stewardship over community assets as we prosper in relationship and royalty sharing covenant. This is very important for the body to understand that you are royalty. If you are royalty, right, you have a relationship with whom? The King, the Father, and you get to share in his covenant that he's established with us to generate what's called the B quadrant: business, economic stimulation, and organic growth. Our interdependent, not independent. This is where people get mixed up, because they're going to say, okay, let me go start a 508 on my own, as you know, as Denzel Napoleon Rodriguez. Let me go start a 508 on my own. Good luck. Again, you're heading yourself down a terrible path and could lead to massive amounts of fines and possible jailing if you try to do this on your own. The purpose of God's structure is not the lone wolf, right? It's not a lone wolf structure here. This is a body coming together, right? If you try to take what I'm saying and twist it and manipulate it for your own gain, good luck. Go look them up. I'm telling you, the smartest people have tried this on their own, and they end up right in jail. Straight to jail. because they thought that this was a man system. This is a God-created system. And if God is not in the system, therefore he will what? Rebuke you. Simple as that. So not only are you dealing with United States jurisdiction, now you got to deal with God. Saying, hold on. This is not how I want my kingdom established. This is not what I want you doing until I return. Right? So you're going to get messed up. So look at the words. Everything is our, we, right? It starts with our and we and and community and co-op, cooperatively, right? There's no I and there's no me in this. So our interdependent auxiliary trust organizations called sponsoring assemblies are charged with the domiciled safekeeping of locally co-vested assets. Assets that have been endowed to these trusts are not bound under statutory jurisdictional agreement and thereby are not lawfully susceptible to government confiscation under adhesion contracts pursuant to your 14th Amendment citizen adhesion contracts that you signed and that your parents signed when they birthed you, right? So here's how we build trust in community. We can be a city shining brightly on a hill. We can consecrate your ministry with ICOVEST, right? So you can have our churches today come together. Instead of trying to be 50,000 different types of Christians, how do we become one kingdom royal family? Instead of being First Baptist, Second Baptist, Third Baptist, Pentecost, Christian, non-denomination, what if we were just one kingdom royal family operating under the church, the bride of Christ, period? And we would lead as an interdependent auxiliary trust. Use the laws of the land to do good works in offering abundant provisions to those in need. Lead your flock to build and distribute provisions for your community. And that is it. Okay? Done. Okay? Whew. Oh my goodness, it's 4:38. Wow.
Powerful.
I'm so glad. Training into understanding jurisdictional finance and how we speak. Okay? When Jeremiah and I do business together, right? We transact. I pay him, he pays me, let's say. But when Jeremiah and I are operating in the kingdom, which is literally how it's been so far, our relationship has been like just 100% kingdom to date, which is I exchange my value. So notice how I said the word exchange. I don't sell my value to Jeremiah. I exchange my value to Jeremiah. Jeremiah exchanges his value to me. We both come together. We dedicate time. And therefore, any production, any treasure, any profit from that gets stored up in heaven. So our investments are multiplying right now in heaven. Heaven is having a field day right now. Okay? So they're like, whoa, this is cool. You don't see this every day. So heaven is cheering. We're binding things in heaven that gets loosed here on earth. Pretty powerful. Therefore, the things that happen preceding this moment is not a taxable event. It's not. Because that's not how the code works. I would need to pay Jeremiah to do this with me here. Or he would need to pay me to do this here, and that would be a taxable event. One of us, both of us, is going to pay some taxes, right? And there's obviously ways to deduct taxes in the world. But imagine if we did not have to go through all those steps, and we imagine how much more cash flow would flow back into our economies. And imagine how much more productive your church would be on their mission trips and the type of giving locally that they do, instead of just, again, the way most churches work today. It's like they get tithes, pay their expenses, and they just blow the rest. And when I say blow the rest, it's like they're helping a bunch of people. So that's fun, that's nice. But are those people actually getting themselves out of poverty? Or do they just become enabled by the very church that's supposed to bring the good news? So those people get enabled instead of becoming interdependent on the king to lift themselves out of poverty by being helped through grace and mercy and peace and patience, but not stay there, but be able to elevate. And now they can be a blessing to others. And then it creates that multiplication effect of how blessing and wealth works. So again, powerful stuff here, the action steps. Let me share my screen one more time and show you what I got going on, and I'll put a link in the chat. All right, so let me share with you.
Hope you guys are really enjoying this. I know that I am. So give Denzel some feedback there in the chat. If you enjoyed this, if you all 4 weeks, how many weeks have you been here? Is this your first week? Is this your fourth week? And tell us how you enjoyed this. We want to know as we close this out, and he tells you about this Ministry of Finance. All right, back to you.
Yeah. So my website, denzelrodriguez.com, you come over here to the Ministry of Finance. And if you want to engage in this discipleship and you want to build this foundation of understanding jurisdiction, when I tell you, you are going to be you're going to have so much more conviction in designing your whole life policies going through this program, right? And this is what it looks like. There's 7 lessons, and it literally breaks down just how we build kingdom structures together. One of those structures being whole life insurance, and how that plays a critical role in how we build wealth long term. So there's a philosophy foundation to it. There's a lawful jurisdiction tied to it. So you're not just spiritually believing in the kingdom. It's like, no, I pointed you to the tax code that reveals God's desire in seeing his kingdom physically appear on earth. How can a kingdom physically appear on earth if it is under the authority and regulation and rules of a president, of a prime minister, of a governor, of a secretary? It's not going to work. They ultimately have the authority. So what pastors need to learn, the leaders of the church, that's who we need to target first. So if you're someone that goes to church, we need to sit that pastor down and say, listen, you need to come watch this and see how this can add value to what we're already doing, not taking away, adding. Have our worship team, have our Bible study, have our prayer call, have our prayer meeting, have our marriage counseling group, and have our small ministry financial group, and our business development group, and our tax-free banking, infinite banking, however you want to name it and call it, but whole life insurance group, where every time a human being enters the church and they get saved and they make it their home church, we need to put some life insurance on you. Your human life value is so valuable that there are companies out there in the world willing to insure that body of yours for hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. I have over $5+ million of death benefit on myself. I'm 28 years old. By the time I'm 68 years old, I'll probably have 20, 30 million plus dollars of death benefit that I'll never spend. And that 20, 30, however many millions of dollars, can you imagine what's 10% of 30 million? $3 million? And it gets deposited right into the ecclesia, the church, my home church, let's say. Would that not fund their expenses for the next multiple years? Would that not fund multiple mission trips? Would that not fund multiple business ideas, business collaborations? I'm pretty sure. Would that not give us influence and authority and power maybe in the political world, maybe in the banking world, and restructuring how we do banking, how we lend to folks. Oh my goodness, like I'm on fire here. There's so many different ideas that I could go here, but I'm gonna stop. I got 15 minutes. I want to see if there's some conversations here, but that's the action step. And you yourself, the way you can start, right? Because we got to get your house in order first. This is all fun. What I'm talking about is really, really cool. But even I myself, I'm still getting my house in order, and I'm still building up my house to be able to build a physical ministry where I can have a team of people and scale this whole thing up. So this involves dedicating your entire life to this. This might take 40 years. I've already declared it in my spirit and with the Father that even if I never experienced this personally, but if all I did was speak kingdom and walk kingdom all day, every day for the next 40 plus years and produce children, and all they know is kingdom talk and kingdom language, they're going to be able to identify other kingdom people around the world that they can work with, and it's going to accelerate their progress. It's going to build their relationship capital to the extent that I don't think anyone's ever seen before, right? So the future looks bright, is all I'm saying. Okay, future looks bright. We win. There you go. We win. So even if you're not winning right now, you're winning.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't gotten it yet, you ain't getting it. That was powerful, Denzel. That was powerful. We having some church up in here, quite literally understanding how the kingdom mindset can come to your community, your own family. There's so many things, so many great things. If you have questions, comments, concerns, throw them in the chat. I know that there's going to be one or two private conversations that have come out of this that I've gotten messages for, and we've done some back and forth here. So what is it that you wonder, that you can add, that you can get clarity on here? We are talking through, ladies and gentlemen, utilizing a fundamental product for the process of jurisdiction, mindset, rebuilding, and reputation. We are talking about that. We do want to get in a conversation with you about that. And if you are not going to change your mind, turn from your wicked ways, sinner, and get your mind right, you're going to be lost. You're going to ask me questions, as Denzel said last or the week before. He said, you know, if you get the right things in the right order, you don't ask questions anymore just about the rate, just about the number in this column, just about which company or dividend allocation is going to come at the end of the year. You've got to understand it on a more mental and a spiritual, if I can say that, mental here, spiritual here, level. And if you do that, it changes everything for your world, every single thing. So we hope that you find that peace and that clarity in here and in here, so we can have a conversation on pen and paper about where you are today in setting that financial foundation. Also, I got encouraged, convicted, reminded that there are leaders out there like your clergy and your other leaders, your business leaders, your community leaders, who need to understand this, who need to understand that if people's lives are valued, and they are valued in a way where they are going to be replaced with funds upon their demise, so the mission can continue. That's the whole point. The mission can continue after they're gone, because they're not there to contribute for it anymore. It'll change how we work together. It will change what we do, and of course, it change what we accomplish. Okay, we have got one or two questions, I think, coming to us by getting, is it Jalissa yeah, go ahead and unmute there and see if you can, we can hear you and you can get your question answered. Yes, D. Lee, appreciate that, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, you can go back and watch the other episodes on our Cash Compound channel. And we've got a question right here. Jalissa, go ahead and hit it. Where are you from, and what's your question and thought?
I am from California, Oceanside, California. Just have a couple questions. I'll make them really quick. My first question is, which 3 trusts do you recommend for stacking? And is that something that you guys kind of walk your members through once you sign up?
Great question. Denzel might answer some of that. Did you say 3, the number 3? Which 3 trusts?
Yeah, I believe you said trust stacking. So I assume that would be like
Got it.
useful.
So I will say real quick, Denzel might add more or take some away from this. So trust, there are many different types of trusts. First off, yeah, there are many different types depending on what you're trying to do. Just like we have a mission at our church, our ecclesiastical gathering. We got a mission, but this one might be in a jail ministry. This one might be for the kids. This one might be to help people and the homeless, right? Different things. And depending on what you're doing, depends on the trust setup. Okay. So there are lots of different types of trust out there, first off. So I'm not sure exactly what, and secondly, we don't set them up. We work with different folks to set them up, but there's more than three, first off. There's two general ideas: simple trust, complex trust, and underneath complex trust, there's like 15 different types. So depending on what we're trying to accomplish, depends on where you're trying to go, I think. So Denzel, you want to take away from that?
Yes. So I'll segment what, add to that separation. So I think it's really valuable as a United States citizen. You can have your own personal irrevocable living trust. That's a great way to start. If we're like under $1 million net worth, we're not making so much money yet. The more money we generate, the more money we get blessed with to steward, the more complex those trusts have to be, especially if we're dealing with someone that has 5 different companies. Each company is going to have a trust, right? Each company is maybe you'll have like a charitable remainder trust. You'll have an organization. You'll have these different things. So in the world, that going back to that picture, that pyramid, right, where it was man and female, common law. If I was talking to an atheist, a non-believer, and we're just talking strictly how can they protect themselves, do the most to protect themselves based on their own efforts and works, I said, buddy, you got to get there. As a man, as a female, you got to get there under common law. How do you get there? Simple trust and complex trust. You start off with simple trust because it's affordable. You're not making a whole lot of money just yet. It's simple, straightforward. If you die in the process of creating all this wealth, at least you had a trust in place that determined how your assets would be dispersed. Right? You got your will, your healthcare directive, right? Your power of attorney, all those different things. These are just documents, right? And then there's legacy planning that goes in that. So that's world thinking of simple trust and complex trust, right? And the ultra wealthy do this at a serious degree, where we can even get into how they have dual citizenships in other countries, how they set up banks in other countries and assets in other countries, and have what is it called when the criminal goes on an island that the United States doesn't have jurisdiction over? I forget what that's called.
Sanctuary?
Extradite?
Or
Is it?
yeah.
Is it
Well, extradite is when you pull somebody back, but maybe sanctuary.
pull somebody back?
Yeah.
It's a sanctuary. There's another word for when someone is escaping into a land where they've done a crime, but now the U.S. can't enter. They don't have authority. They don't have jurisdiction.
They don't
right?
have
There's
jurisdiction. They don't have
Yeah.
jurisdiction, right? Okay.
So
Authority there. I love it.
Right. So there's illegal ways to do this. Just putting it out there. Like there's illegal ways, there's legal ways. I choose to do it legal and lawful according to what the U.S. tax code says. Even then, depending on how you speak in the world, where you lean, you have to be mindful there's a spiritual accuser, attacker, right? That may try to attack you for your beliefs when you go on this path. So that might be deception. That might be, different ways of getting manipulated. So again, having simple trust and complex trust, Jeremiah said that very well. And then you've got on the kingdom side, it's called an integrated auxiliary trust, right? That can only operate under an ecclesiastical sovereign state. So we're literally talking about another nation, right? A nation, a state that's sovereign from United States. United States has no authority to tell how Chinese citizens live their lives. Yet, we coexist for the time being. Same with Russia, same with Australia, same with Canada, right? yet we coexist. The kingdom, think of it the same way. Imagine the kingdom of God here on earth with its trust endowed to the royal family, and you and I have titles of ambassador, manager, representor, right? Clergy member, bona fide participating member for the non-believer, right? And a believer, for the Jew and the Gentile, all coming together, right? So that's separate. And the way the documentation is written out, you don't write in black and red ink, you sign in purple. And you don't sign your name the way you write it in the world. There's a different name to write there's a different way to write your name in the kingdom on paper. And one of those ways is writing it in purple. Purple represents royalty, right? And that is legally binding. Like, the world will look at that, the powers that be, the theys, will look at that, and they cannot touch you. It's incredible. Super powerful position of authority and credibility to be in. So hopefully that helps. And yeah, I would reach out to Jeremiah's team on how we can just look at Jalissa Daniels now. What is her current financial position? How do we protect her now in the state of being that she is in? And then as she continues to grow, that's when she starts to get more complex with it, right? And there was another question
Love
you
it.
had, Jalissa.
Another question there, Jalissa?
Come off mute. Go ahead.
Cool. I was gonna wait till the end. Okay, and these are quick as well, or this is quick. So my other one was, how long have you guys been a church, and how long have you been integrating this kind of process?
So for me personally, I got exposed to this about a year or so after COVID. So I want to say it was like late 2021 is when I started learning about, so there's the kingdom of heaven, spiritual, there's the kingdom of God, physical, and then there's a jurisdiction and all these laws and mandates and codes that literally exist, and I can find it in the tax code. So I've been on a 2-3 year journey just learning. I do have what's called a self-supporting ministry, an SSM, that's also in the tax code. A self-supporting ministry operates under the mother church of a 508c1a. So it's a church of a church of a church, right? And my ministry is called Finance Geek Ministry. It's a ministry of finance. And I have had that for over a year now. And I operate squarely outside of commercial jurisdiction. People don't pay me money. We exchange. I don't sell. I exchange. I give. Right? There's no investment being made inside Finance Geek Ministry. There's only co-vestments, because it implies and it states that no man owns anything in this kingdom. And that is my final point I want to make here, is when you decide to go down this path, you are standing under the authority of God, over which you own and have nothing. So I hope you're ready and prepared to do that, because some are not, because they want to do their own thing and create their own thing their way. I'm giving you all the warning in advance. You will own nothing. You will have nothing. And you will be free, and you will have joy, and you will have peace, and you will have authority and credibility and influence over assets, community assets, and stewardship, over which you are an ambassador, a representor of, and manager. I'm going to leave it at that, right? We can go much deeper into that. I get too excited, so I'm going to stop.
Thank you so
All right.
much.
All right. Thank you, Jalissa. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Just use that link that you provided, and I'll talk to you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Here, let me.
So I threw a couple of links down there in the chat. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the next step for you in most circumstances here is keep educating yourself. Keep educating yourself. One of the ways you can do that is clicking these links here. We've got a playlist with several different types of trusts inside the first YouTube playlist. the second link that I dropped for you is our walkthrough, our basic approach to infinite banking. We call it the save and spend system, and we walk you through that in that video right behind saveandspendsystem.com. So get in there, drop us your email, let us know when you want to talk, and watch the video. That'll pop right up for you. It's absolutely free, less than an hour. And when you get that overview, it's going to really click for you. If you're not sure what infinite banking is, you think you've heard of it, you think your friend has talked about it, but you haven't seen our video, please start there and let's have that conversation. It's a free consultation, just like this, where we can talk through your specific questions on the technical aspects of getting it set up. All right. And other than that, your trust is another level. It's another layer. It's trust has to do with a lot of times trust, basically super basic, has to do with your other assets. Life insurance will pass outside of the tax code, outside of the court system automatically. Okay. You don't need a trust to get your life insurance in order. That automatically passes. Trusts have to do basically with everything else. Okay. Everything else. You can put your life insurance inside your trust system, just like Denzel was saying, within your church, within your family. And you can and should do that if they're set up. They don't have to be set up right away to get your money placed in the right, proper location first. Pay yourself first by putting inside whole life insurance. We explain that through our save and spend system. And of course, Denzel is available for that one-on-one coaching. If you want to talk through a comprehensive view of your personal economy and financial situation, that's what Denzel is best at. And so he is taking clients right there. You can get in that conversation with him. You don't have to, that's a free consultation to start off with. I would highly suggest you get in there with him, let him walk and talk to you a little bit, make sure it's a good fit, and you can have those conversations with him as well. Both of us can lead you toward all of the things that we talked about today. All right. We're actually in this space as professionals to help you do the things we talked about today. So if you heard him say something specific, hit him up. If you want to talk specifically about how to get your whole life insurance, family banking system set up, that's where we're going to come in. Love it. We're going to wrap very, very soon. So speak now, whoever or forever hold your peace. Luca, good to see you out there. I didn't give you a shout out a little bit earlier, but Luca and I have talked a couple of times, and he's down there in Florida, South Florida somewhere as well.
I actually have to bounce, my friend.
Okay.
I actually have to head out.
Yep. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, anything else for me as we close out? Round of applause for Denzel. We're going to have him back. We're going to collab more. We can make it longer, better, shorter, different. It's going to be really good stuff as we move forward. If I don't hear anything from you guys, we will talk soon on a free cash consultation call where we'll walk and talk you through things. D. Lee, appreciate you out there. All right, peace, everybody.
All right, thank you.